ça.
Me vle aller massa aller, me vle parti massa parti, me vle sorti massa sorti, me vle quitter massa quitter, me vle aller massa aller, me vle parti massa parti, me vle sorti massa sorti. Bagala yo ba mwen pou fote ya, isa mwen boy, isa mwen boy. Woy, bagala yo ba mwen pou fote ya, isa mwen boy, isa mwen boy. Woy, parti mwen chante sala, adanam kawi ha ha.
down. Would you call me call? I will give you something sweet tonight. Mangai moto l'auto moi, mangai va conduire l'auto moi. Et nous qui mangeons dans paradis. Doudou prends tes temps, Doudou calme mes corps. Nous n'est toute soirée pour tout signer. Doudou prends tes temps, Doudou calme mes corps. I will give you something sweet tonight. Doudou prends tes temps, Doudou calme mes corps. Nous n'est toute soirée pour tout signer.
Passa coucher dormir. Dis maman, pour tout passer coucher dormir. Maman, 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 maman,
comme ça. Pour ni patience, pour pas prétendre. Moi dis pas pour se faire. Moi dis pas pour se faire. Moi c'est un homme qui fier. Moi c'est un homme qui fier. Un caille by side pour jouer. Un caille by side pour jouer. Car oui c'est bien sans pièce frappée. Car oui c'est bien sans pièce frappée. Monsieur moi cherche où est moi. Vous faites que oui mais pas brisé. Pas ma chalet pas ni piquant. Moi mande ça qu'avant. Moi mande ça qu'avant. Il dit moi c'est doban. Il dit moi c'est doban. Si vous gardez derrière. Si vous gardez derrière. Femme là qu'à marcher bien. Femme là qu'à marcher bien.
Devant la côté c'est la famille Dr. Williams you are pas there là you continue to aller. Okay, so welcome again to our tributes to Dr. Gregor Williams, and we're hoping to have a good evening, lots of tributes, music, and occasionally some storytelling. Okay, I know that we have some storytellers among you, so we want to hear some of you. Okay. Nous allons commencer. Ouvert le parler. Ou y a parlé?
Oui, moi parle. Comme ça, nous allons ouvert et puis l'esprit Gregor. Et puis après nous inviter l'esprit Gregor, nous allons mener famille Gregor.
D'accord.
Ouvert. Ouvert. Ouvert, ouvert par Léa, éclairé par Léa, pour l'esprit grégantué. Ouvert, ouvert par Léa, éclairé par Léa, pour l'esprit grégantué. Let me hear you now, ouvert. Ouvert, ouvert par Léa, éclairé par Léa, pour l'esprit grégantué. Ouvert, ouvert par Léa, éclairé par Léa, pour l'esprit grégant. Let us now stand for the family. Ouvert, ouvert par Léa.
Entrez, entrez. Ouvert, ouvert. Ouvert par Léa, éclairé par Léa, pour la famille grégantée. Ouvert. Ouvert par Léa, ouvert par Léa, pour la famille chrétienne.
Ouvert, ouvert, ouvert par Léa, éclairé par Léa, pour famille Gregantoué. Ouvert tout le monde. Ouvert, ouvert par Léa, éclairé par Léa, pour l'esprit Gregantoué. Ouvert, ouvert par Léa, éclairé par Léa, pour l'esprit grégantué. Tendeno ti congoa sous la mer, maman. Ayo, tendeno ti congoa sous la mer, maman. Tendeno ti congoa sous la mer, maman. Tendeno. This is a kutumba that heralds the spirit of our ancestors. Tendeno tikongoa sous la mer, maman. Ayo, tendeno tikongoa sous la mer, maman. Tendeno tikongoa sous la mer, maman. Tendeno, tendeno, tendeno. On nous peut dire, Papa Dieu, nous remercions pour aujourd'hui. Nous remercions Papa pour simplicité. Nous remercions Papa pour bel petit paysage pour la manoir. Pour peuple nous, Papa, pour culture nous, pour tradition nous, Papa. Pour tiers aux abanous, Papa. Remercie aussi toujours dia pour les choses à lever et nous à célébrer Gregor, Castro. Papa, nous remercions pour la vie, nous remercions pour la contribution qu'il a fait pour Sainte-Lucie. Manière a touché chez nous et puis fait nous comprendre comment nous sommes Saint-Lucien, identité nous, Papa. Quand nous oui, merci au Papa. Nous avons levé famille, Papa. Touché yo un moment souffrance la peine, séparation. Mais un moment diaouté que nous avons célébré. Ton grégaté pour yo et pour nation nous. Papa, quand nous venons ensemble au soir, voyez bénédiction à sous nous. À ce gouvernement, à ce peuple, à ce pays. Si tout papa, préservez-nous, papa, préservez-nous, au-delà de Dieu, papa, au-delà de Dieu. Nous voulons la paix, nous voulons la paix, nous voulons la paix, papa. Nous voulons la paix, papa. Papa, nous allons crier à sous, c'est où que ça va nous la paix. Et puis, j'ai des miséricordes à sous l'âme, frère nous, Gregor. J'ai des miséricordes à soi. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie, 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 eleison, Kyrie, Kyrie, Christe, 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 eleison, Christe, Christe, Kyrie, 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 eleison, Kyrie, 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 Kyrie. Au nom du Père et du Fils et du Saint-Esprit, ainsi soit-il.
Nous sommes assis. Eh bien bon, nous voulons bienvenue encore tout le monde. We want to welcome everybody to this little tribute to my very good friend. I will say to you, I know his family is there, or they are there, and many of his friends, well-wishers. I can never forget this gentleman, so very affable. And I recall when I used to be at the Folk Research Center, he used to be at every function. And when he gets there, he called me, he says, he looks if Dee is watching, and he said, yeah, we always had something in the corner, you know. So we take a little drink, you know, and it was always a pleasure to see for us to meet and talk. Mais, Tim, qui sa bon Dieu mettra sur la terre? Qui sa ou kawe ek bon Dieu pas kawe? Eh bien, ça c'est yon, oui, mais c'est pas exactement ça là. Qui sont kawe et body power? What you can see and God can't see. Sounds strange. We were told that God knows and sees all things. But that's not quite true, you know. There's something that you can see and he can't see it. Okay, donc moi pour un homme comme vous, somebody like you, because there's only one God. He can't see another God like him. Okay, it's only one God, therefore, it's only one God. You can see several people, he can't see several gods. Okay? Vous dites quoi? Okay. Il y en a encore. Un maman fait un ish l'a pas sali. A mother has made a child, but the child is not hers. En boutine? Non, en boutine, c'est ça que vous voyez? Ok, eh bien c'est un poule qui éclore en canard. Il fait canard, mais canard pas sali. Ok? Ok, nous allons continuer. But let me call on Dee, who would come and give you a little welcome, you know, on behalf of her late husband.
I just want to say thank you from all of us for coming, for being here, for making us feel hugged. Thank you very much.
Ok, eh bien, à présent, nous avons un petit plan là, quoi des programmes en anglais, mais c'est plan en plan. Et puis, en nous tenant des paroles, on commence, et puis, Solution National Archives. You is here? Solution National Archives? Okay, come forward, Solution National Archives.
Good evening to all. And special sympathy goes out to the family of Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams was a personal friend of mine, and he was one who was able to encourage me. He's the reason why I am still at the National Archive. One of two persons, the other being Eric Branford. He always comes in and encourages me and tells me, hold on. Be at it. One day, you shall ascend to be what you want to be. Now, I prepared a tribute based on the records we have at the archives on Mr. Williams. But the plan has been changed on me. I was supposed to forward it to somebody to compile, so there would be too many tributes. However, I will read a few some snippets from that things to give you a little idea of what it means to us as at the National Archives. It is important, he played an important role in setting up the National Archives because he was made interim archivist during the time the Archaeological and Historical Society was charged in setting up the National Archives. And Mr. Williams, Mr. Eric Branford, Alan Ames, those persons came together and they were able to champion the cause, and today we have a National Archives. Also, as he served as the Historical Secretary of the ANH, and during that time, he worked assiduously to ensure that St. Lucia had the first national archivist in Margot Thomas. Prior to that, we had a VSO individual who helped put legislations together to set up the archives, and Dr. Williams was one of those who championed for St. Lucian to become the first national archivist. I shall not endeavor to deliberate on everything he has done, because I believe somebody else has been charged with the responsibility of putting together a proper tribute on Dr. Williams. However, I want to say something. Some of his achievement with respect to cultural organization who can better articulate what he is and what he represents. However, I would like to highlight some publication for which he was the editor. He was the editor of the Unsung War Heroes of St. Lucia. He did that in 2008. Also, he was the editor for the St. Lucia's 30th anniversary of Independence magazine, two of them, the 30 years and the 31st year. Also, like I said, I don't want to rehash what the post is going to say. However, hold on. Dr. William was a resolute advocate for the preservation of St. Lucia's heritage. He consistently encouraged those engaged in this line of work. He took particular interest in affirming my own commitment to the National Archives and ANH, and his words of encouragement would offer generously and sincerely. Such support coming from a well-respected historian meant a lot to me, and I appreciated that. May the contribution of Gregor to the education, public service, and heritage preservation be duly recognized, recorded, and remembered. I know I was always at him, Mr. Williams, you have to document all that knowledge you have. He just smiled at me and told me one day it will happen. But I hope we, as advocates of St. Lucia's history and patrimony, will be able to put together all his writing into a book so persons from generation to generation can have access and learn our historical patrimony. And may those who continue to work do so with some sense of responsibility, quiet dedication that characterize Dr. Williams. I thank you.
Okay, that's from the archives. We now go to the National Trust. Anybody from the trust? Oh yes, it's coming up.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Master of Ceremonies. I know you stated earlier that we're not going to stand on protocol, but please permit me to acknowledge the presence of Dame Paulette Louisi, our former Governor General, as well as the patron of the Trust. Please permit me to also recognize Dr. Didicus Jules, Dr. Ernest Inler, I understand that there are 2 ambassadors here this evening, the ambassador for Cuba, as well as the ambassador for Venezuela. I also want to recognize Dr. Winston Fulgens, who is the chairman of the Archaeological and Historical Society. And permit me very briefly to recognize the presence of Lady Compton, who is the chairperson of the National Archives, the St. Lucia National Archives, and Mrs. Marcia Symphorian-Lura, who is the Secretary General for the UNESCO St. Lucia National Commission. I also recognize that there are a few permanent secretaries here. I also wish to acknowledge their presence as well. I messed up tonight, and here's why. I misread the memo that said that this is supposed to be an informal event. So true to form, I prepared a script, I scripted myself, only to arrive here to realize, particularly from the MC, that this is a completely informal event. However, unfortunately, I should say, I can't blame certain persons because of my misreading of the memo. I'm tempted to blame my director, but she's not responsible for that at all. I'm also tempted to blame my dear wife, but she's also not responsible, and she's here also, so I better not do that. I will accept full ownership for my mistake, but I will read some excerpts from what I have written in any event. I wish to start by commending and thanking both Monsignor Patrick Anthony as well as Mr. Imber Charles for arranging this event, and also providing me an opportunity to pay tribute to Dr. Gregor Williams, whom we all know to be a beloved educator, an extraordinary historian, an environmentalist, a former chairperson of the St. Lucia National Trust, as well as a long-standing counselor of the St. Lucia National Trust. He was also a recent conservation hero of the St. Lucia National Trust. We also know him to be a family man. He's a dear family friend of ours. And of course, we know him to be a very awesome person. Mr. Michael Gordon, one of His Majesty's King's Counsel, as well as a retired Justice of Appeal of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, made the following remarks at one of the Sir Vincent Flosack Memorial Lectures on the 8th of December of 2016, and I'll just read it very quickly, it's short. He said this: "It is a sadness of life, particularly true of our Caribbean societies, that in the main, we bury not only the mortal remains of our heroes, but also the memories of their accomplishments and achievements, which are part of the rich fabric that makes the quilt of our society." End of quotation. So my tribute tonight is really intended to memorialize by placing on the record the formidable and rich body of work that was of our own homegrown hero, Dr. Gregor Williams, whom we affectionately know as Gregor. I first met Gregor almost 20 years ago, and that was through my wife, Sadia Snack. I recall that Sadia, on countless occasions, referred to Gregor as being my dear Mr. Williams. She spoke of him very endearingly, and Mr. Williams was at the time a fellow counselor on the St. Lucia National Trust, and I believe he was the representative for the Archaeological and Historical Society at the time. Sadia at the time described Gregor as being a man who lived a life dedicated to the preservation of St. Lucia's history and patrimony. She also described him as being a fearless man, sometimes brusque, and always unapologetically outspoken, a courageous advocate, a possessor of boundless energy and largeness of spirit, as well as a statesman who embodied devotion to country and cause. I remembered her saying to me many times, Mr. Williams knew everything about everything. She said to me, well, when you think about it, it ranged from history to music to art, even to botany, to name a few. And Mr. Williams, of course, possessed a very voracious appetite for knowledge, which was only rivaled by his willingness to share it with other persons. At cocktails, Mr. Williams at cocktails and other events, Mr. William had one staple outfit, which would be his shirt jack and his sandals. Whatever the occasion, Mr. Williams also had a camera slung over his shoulder. And my wife told me he had a very good eye for detail and for movement as well. I also learned through Sadia that Gregor was an outstanding senior student of the St. Mary's College. And as a matter of fact, he was her dad's Form 6 teacher at St. Mary's College. So I imagine he may have been just a few years older than her father, but in these days, students who went up to Form 6 and left would come back to the institution to teach briefly. I was formally introduced to Gregor at one of the family events that he and Dee were invited to. And folks, for some reason, and I cannot explain it, I perceived Gregor to be a very diminutive man, a short man who had zero sense of humor. So you can imagine the shock I felt when I was formally introduced to Gregor. Of course, he was a giant of a man in every sense of the word. He possessed the gift of gab, and he had a very tasteful, and infectious sense of humor. I recall the first time that I met him, we started chatting, and he immediately took me into an odyssey of his professional trajectory, from a teacher to an engineer to an historian and to an historian and then an environmental activist. Gregor informed me of some very interesting facts that I had been unaware of, and probably I can test the Sumerians inside in this auditorium. He explained to me that during his years at St. Mary's College, the Presentation Brothers for the first time became associated with the school, and that prior to the Presentation Brothers becoming associated with the school, there were only 3 houses: Tapor, Abercrombie, and Rodney. And when they became associated with the school, Presentation House for the first time emerged. I don't know, well, I guess the older Sumerians in here may know this, but I don't know how many of the younger generation Sumerians would be aware of this bit of trivia. I have to say I was deeply fascinated by the man, but I was at the time very puzzled by why would a man who is so brilliant not choose the career path that he had pursued, which was engineering. However, I will tell you all, it soon became apparent to me why he was destined to choose the career path he did. I recall accompanying my wife, well, she was not my wife then, but I remember accompanying her along with the youth chapter of the St. Lucia National Trust to 2 sites, one being the old sugar mill at Choiseul, the other being the archaeological carvings that are found. They lie near the Deriso Gap, the bridge just before you get to the Deriso Gap coming from Castries. You have to, I think, go to the east. And certain things stood out at me. First of all, I was unaware that these sites had even existed at the time. And Gregor, who was by then at least 70 years old, very effortlessly led the group, which was a very large group, to these remnants. And this man passed through swaths of dense vegetation, and this man was unaided by any device. No GPS, no map, nothing at all. Another thing that struck me was that he seemed completely unbothered by certain things that would bother many people. There were large patches, endless patches, I should say, of long razor grass. This didn't seem to deter him. The heat was unforgiving, didn't bother him. There were biting sandflies, that didn't seem to faze him. And the terrain was not the easiest. It wasn't flat land that we had to go up and down, very undulating. He not only knew exactly where these remnants lay, he knew their precise origin, he knew their precise purpose, he knew their precise age, and he knew their precise historical significance. In short, I will say that Gregor was a living encyclopedia of St. Lucia's rich history. And I will tell you all, and I've said that to my wife many times before, if St. Lucia ever had a version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Gregor would be my first option for phone a friend. I had occasion to witness Gregor's many remarkable qualities when, in November of 2010, the then administration purported to sell a portion of what was then the Queen's Chain, now the King's Chain. And I was the appointed legal counsel in the matter. And I have to say, I really got to see firsthand, or witness firsthand, Gregor's courage, his determination, and him standing for what he believed in. The rest is history. That purported sale was never happened. The government of the day decided to relent. So again, Gregor applied the pressure in his capacity as chairperson, leading the charge of the warriors, and this is what happened. Gregor's life and career path powerfully remind me of an English philosopher, John Stuart Mills, who famously said the following of a man who believed and fought for his own convictions. And I quote, "A man who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing which is more important than his own personal safety, is a miserable creature and has no chance of being free unless made and kept so by the exertions of better men than himself." End of quote. I feel satisfied that Gregor valiantly fought for his convictions throughout his life. I last saw Gregor at the Pigeon Island headquarters. We were celebrating yet another the unveiling of yet another conservation hero. And you know, although his body was by then frail, he was nevertheless very strong. His voice was strong, and he had not lost his sense of humor at all. This occasion cannot pass without my personal acknowledgement of the invaluable contributions made by Gregor's soulmate and wife, Dee. Dee, there aren't words that are big enough to describe how much Gregor loved you, your children, and your extended family. You stood beside him, shoulder to shoulder, both of you giants, within and without the Trust family. To many of us, Gregor was more than a colleague. He was a wise counsel, a true friend, a good teacher, and an extraordinary person whose sense of humor endeared him to all. As an historian and environmentalist, Gregor was deeply passionate, incisive, detailed, thorough, and fearless. He was a formidable and fearless champion of the Trust. Bolstered by his long and varied experience, his intellect and his commitment, Gregor's contribution to the Trust has been invaluable and indelible and shall be truly missed. And so, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Council, the management and staff of the Trust, and also on my own behalf and that of my family, I wish to place on the record that we have lost a brilliant protagonist, historian, conservationist, environmentalist, national hero, and person. So let us all join in saluting Gregor's legacy and celebrating his life. I thank you very much.
Thank you. That was so well done that if Gregor anywhere wrong, he might come back, you know. Okay, let us do a little light moment in the meantime. I'll do that one in English. I'm sure some of you have heard of this one before, but many years ago, policemen were hired not on intellectual acuity, but on the monstrous apparition of the Western gorilla species. Now, I'm not referring to the fugly physiognomy of the beast, you know, but its incomparable muscularity. When you saw a policeman, everybody is frightened. But this policeman was at his post, and the phone rings, and he picks up and says, "Corporal James," and the voice on the other side says, "The commissioner." He puts the phone down, and he salutes him. Okay? Then, that was a solution policeman in those days, yeah. A lot of respect, all right? Then another time again, this policeman saw this guy grab a lady's bag and took off. And the police started to chase him, and the police going down the road, and the police chasing him. As the police reached by a school, they started playing the national anthem. Obviously, the guy continued running. He was not paying attention. Okay, but that is your policeman for you. But today things have changed, of course. Most of them are lawyers like this the man for the archives. They are pretty good, I must say. Okay, all right. So we'll call on the Alias Forces to say a few words on behalf of that organization.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here on behalf of the Alias Forces de St. Lucie. Gregor had a long association with the Alias Forces, serving on the committee for many years until his health didn't permit him to be present at our various functions, of course, always accompanied by D. Although he wasn't fluent at French, he was what we'll call a Francophile, meaning that he had a deep love for the French language and the culture. We can never forget the many talks/conferences he held at the Alias Forces on various historical topics. One in particular stood out for me. That was the talk and display he held on the compensation of the slave masters in St. Lucia after the abolition of slavery to compensate the owners for loss of revenue. On behalf of the management and members of the Alias Forces, past and present, I would like to say a big thank you to Dee and Gregor's family for so generously sharing him with us. Gregor, vole bien haut avec les anges et que ton âme reste en paix. I thank you.
Okay, short and sweet. Now, we're ready for you. We're ready for you, you know? Yeah, ready for you. Okay, let's hear from a poem by Robert Lee.
have a little accompaniment. You just give us a little chance to go. Charlie? We call holy convocations for the feasts of months, of flute and drums, flowers rose and blue, armies of song and dance in costumed ranks, coming from village halls to cathedrals to city squares, among green lawns by ocean's edges. And chanterelles chant the ancient word of our story, Tikongo sur la mer. We have not forgotten Coffle and Barracoon, stinking ships, the sea's hump cruel road. You shall keep them, O Lord. Exiles in Babylon town, New World citizens of America, shipwrecked islanders, survivors of many middle passages that Tikongo ja navigé, singing blues, Kaizo and Solo, dancing La Comète with Ova and the solitary Kutumba, sending to the world out of every generation from these small places, minds bringing light to this civilized darkness, which you wonder if they will ever learn that under skin we are brethren. You shall preserve them from this generation forever, from self-hating, race-baiting supremacists. You shall hold them rooted in their reservoir resilience, trotting to drum, shak-shak and violon, in Madras and Fola, les Tikongo qu'a célébré la fête fleur, émancipation, indépendance. We are who we are, Imago Dei, children of the first peoples, enslaved Africans, and others who came to these islands to make Creole nations, Pays Creole, something new in the fractured, separated world, an archipelago on parade. The wicked prowl on every side, as they have always done, seducing with dollars and resorts, turning the heads of leaders from the people's faith to idols of Babylon, gods of Mammon, golden calves, and the people forget themselves. Tikongo ka plewe pour more maman, his younger friend's blood clot streets, discord across devices corrupting their hearts, and the ancient wisdom of the tabernacles is lost, not remembered, when violence is exalted among the sons of men.
Okay. All right, thank you, Robert. The owner of PK2488, if you don't go and switch off your light, your bat will go flat. So PK2488, please run and put off your lights. Okay? I hope the person is from here. Otherwise, too bad. Okay, so let's hear Mama Ilakai with some sounds in the meantime. Okay. All right, Mama Ilaka, Charlie. Marilyn, ou pas oui? Eh bien, si vous pas oui, puis dire un morceau. En créole, vous dit comment? En créole? En langue mamano. OK. All right. Marilyn, adressez Gaston. Hyacinth.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Ça c'est une petite parole by Gregor, qui est écrit par Amel Mathurin. C'était une femme créole même qui est passée dès 3 l'année passée. À moins Calbas. En temps moins Calbas, c'était Calbas. Il n'y a pas ni pièce commune, ni pièce place. Où te kay voyager. Avec pas trouvé, Calbas te ka exister en grande quantité. Avant la famille te bien établie. Ou ben yon kay te toapé bâti. Avant yon pied fleur, ou ben yon pied pomme cité. Yon pied Calbas te kay placé en terre. C'est pour ça, en temps ça là, moi qu'a parlé à. Calbas et puis qui c'était sauver les malheureux. À dans toute fête, ou bien toute festin, en la mort, en noce, ou bien un coup de main, fait farine, ou bien aille bord la main, aille prendre de l'eau, ou bien porter sirop, tiwelet, mouchas, fécaille. Eh bien, yon bonbon coucouzé. C'est wégosel, farine, ou bien pois sec. Plat pour toute famille, te manger. C'était cuit, et calbas qui était là. C'est yo qui te met. C'est pour aussi bien changer en temps ça là. Malheureux pâté ça posséder en rien con. Zinc, ou bien inamel, faïence, ou bien porcelaine, cristal, et puis d'argent, c'était pour les gros picha. Ti nom comme moi, et bien ti femme comme moi, et puis ou pâté ça acheter ça. Mais en temps présent, Calbas est cuit par vos rien. Yo se bagay rasta avec plat chien. Jikti mamay qui oublié manière pour faire cuit avec balance et Calbas. Ah, délai, là yon moun changé, il kay fait yon cuit ko yon fantaisie. Ou bien servi yon Calbas qu'on yon joujou pour faire yon maraca, yon porte-à-fleur, yon couverti lampe, ou bien yon chosité pour bay yon touriste. Et en tout pour ça, Calbas pas mort. Calbas a existé toujours. Et Calbas bien fort. Et position Calbas j'ai changé. Pour les présents, il pas seulement bagaille les malheureux tout seul. Mais Pierre Calbas, c'est Pierre bois national nous-mêmes, en pays Sainte-Lucie. Ça c'est pas Amel Mathurin pour Monsieur Gregor. Merci.
OK, merci beaucoup. Bon, à présent, je vais accueillir un monsieur qui est ministre Kilti et puis héritage. Pour ça, on dit morceaux de parole. On a parlé du docteur en arabe. Il est.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. First of all, let me recognize the presence of the Impulette, Governor General Emerita, and of course, family of Dr. Williams. The last few days have been periods of sadness, so I can very well sympathize and understand how you're feeling. I want to bring to you condolences on behalf of the government and people of St. Lucia, and in particular from the Prime Minister, who wishes to express his condolences. As you can imagine, now are not easy times in which we live, and there are a lot of deliberations taking place. And I do hope you will excuse me for leaving very shortly after I'm completed. It really makes you wonder, what would Gregor be thinking about the events of the last few days? I need to be very careful what I say. Not that they'll come and take me like they took Maduro, but these are times when you really have to be careful the things that you do say. Now, Leslie did not want to blame his wife or anybody else for, he being scripted. But I want to blame Ember Charles for me not being scripted. Because when he did call me and speak with me about the event, he promised me, Ernest, I'll prepare a nice tribute for you to deliver. And I was in a meeting in the ministry, and the PS messaged me and tell me, aren't you going to be here tonight? And I'm waiting on Ember's tribute, which never came. So I'm blaming him. No apologies for this. But I want the family to know that, Gregor was a national treasure. I mean, he is somebody who, St. Lucia, and St. Lucians for generations to come will forever be indebted to, for what he has contributed to defining the St. Lucian personality and who we are as a people. And his record is beyond measure, from his start as a teacher and educator, and all the way to being an environmentalist, a historian, and a person who really helped define, what it is to be St. Lucian. And so many persons in this room who would have spoken, and those who would have experienced him would only say nice things about him. You really cannot. I've never heard anybody say anything offensive or anything which is disparaging about him. He just did not seem to have had that personality. I must tell you that when I first met him, I was a little scared of him. No, I'm being truthful. And I remember, the early days, and maybe Dr. Jules, who I didn't recognize, but is of the National Youth Council when we first started. I think those days, Ember had his desk in the Paris Center, very, very early days. And we use him a lot as a resource person, In those days, we held celebrations for African Liberation Day. We had ANC youth persons coming to St. Lucia and having rallies and presentations. And he was always present at those events and shared a lot of knowledge and experiences with us. And as I came in there tonight, a friend of mine said to me, he sent me Christmas greetings, and I didn't respond. And I tell him I just remembered something about Gregor that I remember one time, and I'm going to repeat it. This is Lauren and I who at FRC doing our summer job, and he came and we were talking about Christmas, and he gave us a whole long explanation about Christmas being a capitalistic invention to exploit people. And I was there thinking, I might be a socialist, but I love by Christmas, And I'm telling Laurie that he's a madman, But he was a man of conviction that, even in our discourse, he was able to place into perspective that kind of understanding of society and the nature of society. And, when you add to that, and just reflect on it, these days when we speak in tourism about selling authentic experiences and selling, immersing people in the history of the countries and the destinations that they visit in. Persons like Gregor, years before, were involved in heritage tourism, training tour guides in St. Lucia, and really speaking that the best way for us to share our country is by an authenticity of who we are as a people. In those days, St. Lucia was presented to the world as, sand, beach, and, that's what it was about, and frolic. And there were individuals, he among many others, who really felt the best way we can, present our country to the world is through the definition of who we are as a people, the authentic St. Lucian experiences. And you would read of all his experiences, as an environmentalist. The Slave Root Project, which, I only read about, but he would have been involved in those things. The work he did in terms of ethnography and ethnohistory, all those things, way ahead of its time. So when people are now searching to find out the history of different communities and what are the experiences, those things started years and years ago. And we can build on that knowledge, we can build on that understanding. At a time when we have a globalized world, there's homogeneity. There's still a way that we have to differentiate ourselves among that, uniformity and homogeneity. And he, in many ways, among others, had already started to differentiate us by who we really are, that we were not lost in a world of sameness, if you want to say, that we were different. Not necessarily that we were better, but we were different. And what made us different is our history, our culture, our understanding, how we organize our lives and our music and our traditions. And he was in the forefront of that. And you listen to Leslie and the representative from the archives speak of his contribution. And that is what we've inherited. And generations to come will inherit an understanding of St. Lucianness defined by persons like, Gregor. And we have to be indebted, for that contribution. So it is a loss, to you as a family and to many institutions that he worked with. But St. Lucia would not have been the poorer for it if he had not, St. Lucia would have been the poorer for it if he had not made that contribution that he made. And for that we are grateful and we are ever thankful for it. And I want us, amidst all, the sorrow and all the loss, to remember beyond that, there was a bigger contribution that he made to defining the St. Lucian person and to make us proud, to be who we are. And the many institutions that he worked in, I could not imagine a man had done so many things as he had done, from being teacher, the Archaeological and Historical Society, National Trust, FRC, being one of the first directors of the FRC. And I remember even the early days of the FRC, I still remember Paba's address, debating how do you commercialize culture and do you stay in that, I almost said dogmatic understanding of what culture is, or do you move with an evolving understanding of culture where it is actually commercialized and bring benefits to people. And persons like himself offered us that way forward, that understanding that you can actually achieve both if you recognize the role of each in national development. So let us all be appreciative of his contribution to national development. Let's all be appreciative of the role that he played and how he has helped define, like I say, who we are as St. Lucians. So on behalf of the government and people of St. Lucia, again, let me say to you, we are thankful for his life and for his contribution. And our country will always be indebted to him and for the contribution that he made. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Haley. You said he's supposed to prepare a script for you. I suspect what you did, there was much better in the script. Anyway, Timothy Paul, I guess everybody understands Creole. I hope so. Okay. And as he mentioned about what's happening, what happened in Venezuela, remember a story. Où ça m'entend longtemps? Mon cadeau, à tous mon cadeau bagay wed, mais bagay pas wed. C'est longtemps bagay te wed. Bagay te wed tellement mon quand garçon qui mange 4 bois pain à sur une tête sardine. Et qui pas même marié tête ça, il a pris l'orteil et qui 48 bois après. Mais tout ça là, montre tout partout. Il y a Cayenne, il y a Colombie, c'est Colombie, Venezuela. Mais il y a encore à présent. Il va changer. J'ai Cuba qui a un problème d'aller. Mais il y a des gens qui disent que moi, je suis un pays qui est en Amérique. Tout ça là, on n'a pas besoin de visa pour aller en Amérique. Il paye par ça et qu'il monte en Amérique. Mais il ne parle pas un morceau anglais. Seul ça, il connaît, c'est yes. Là, les boucles ils là, quand ils viennent là, on m'a bout de point. Malheureusement, il passe à pas l'anglais pour me laisser mon côté d'être là. La marché dans Tichime, il y a un papier journal qui a créé Newsweek. Il fait forcément à dingue. Là, il finit en Marseille pour écouter quand il s'est déposé. Même les deux policiers, ils ont dit, how you doing, man? Il dit, yes. What you have in that paper there, man? Il dit, yes. Is that meat, man? Il dit, yes. Is that 2 pounds or 5 pounds? Il dit, yes. Well, let's go to the station and weigh that meat. Look at somebody must swindle you. Let's say, mon nom est dans station, quand you ouvre ça, you say caca. You will be say, désolé la hall, là même. Eh bien, let me see if you feel la hall. You déporté, il vient cette ici, là, il vient la bille, en combat, il est complet. Quand on sort une belle, il dit, bah, il m'a l'Amérique. Il dit, sur l'Amérique, place ça la belle, il y a un vacuum chimien tous les jours. Là, dans le Modoka, il crée ça Cadillac. Il y a un bel Modoka. Modoka a créé qu'on George Ishmael Borticus qui mange la coin cochon rôti. Modoka est climatisé, ça veut dire condition. Il volant assisté, power steering. Il vite assisté, power windows. Il dit, Modoka long tellement. Moi, j'étais 4 jours bon là, il y a qu'à Modoka, ma bondaï. Mais il dit, ça va y Lors l'Amérique, si vous avez caca, ou pas qu'à baiser 5 livres, vous avez foutu l'argent. Hey! Ok. Tout le monde comprend qu'on est là, oui. All right, we have a tribute by Master Sinforia. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. On behalf of the St. Lucia National Commission for UNESCO, I am very honored to pay tribute to Mr. Williams for his immense and invaluable contribution to the work of the St. Lucia National Commission in promoting, safeguarding, and transmitting our natural and cultural heritage. Gregor Williams embodied the very essence of UNESCO's ideals: a deep respect for human dignity, a commitment to cultural expression, an unwavering belief in the power of knowledge and dialogue to advance development. Through his work, he helped to strengthen the appreciation for our shared heritage while inspiring us to see culture not only as a legacy of our past, but as a living force that shapes identity and promotes mutual understanding. Mr. Williams played a major role in advancing the work of the National Commission through his involvement in the UNESCO Associated Schools Project Network, ASP.NET. He was instrumental in the successful implementation of the UNESCO Slave Roots Project in St. Lucia, alongside Ms. Cynthia Joseph, now deceased, who served as ASP.NET coordinator. He was very instrumental in advancing the ASP.NET's mission to promote peace, cultural understanding, and sustainable development, and contributed significantly to strengthening UNESCO's outreach in St. Lucia, especially within the education sector. He willingly shared his vast knowledge and expertise with students island-wide, visiting schools, facilitating activities, and actively engaging young people in meaningful learning experiences centered on cultural heritage and history. In that regard, he served as a bridge between generations, reminding us that culture thrives when it is nurtured, protected, and most importantly, when it is shared. One of his most notable contributions to the ASP network was a project which was implemented within the framework of the International Year to commemorate the struggle against slavery and its abolition. This was entitled Recalling Slavery in St. Lucia, Stories of War and Resistance. Within the framework of this initiative, Mr. Williams coordinated and facilitated the reenactment of several significant historical events that brought history to life for students and communities alike. These included the military battles and the burning of Dauphin at Pigeon Island, the capture and recapture of Mont Fortune, Flore and the Maroons at La Siqui Estate, the battle at Fondou in Soufrière, Kalinago resistance at Balambouche Estate, and Petroni at Fondor Estate. Two of these major events, which were held at Pigeon Island and on the Soufrière Square, stand out as powerful examples of public education and history in action. These activities remain a best practice model for the UNESCO Slavery Project and continue to inspire UNESCO's work on sites of memory, both nationally and regionally. Through this initiative, students from across the island gained an in-depth understanding of key historical events, varied historical perspectives, and the enduring legacy of resistance, resilience, and freedom. Mr. Williams' work demonstrated the power of experiential learning and the importance of knowledge sharing in preserving historical memory. He truly lived for history, and this passion was evident in the way he spoke about it, taught it, and shared it with others, fostering pride, reflection, and a sense of collective responsibility for preserving what matters most. He gave freely of his time, his knowledge, and his expertise in service to the National Commission and the wider education sector. But we will remember Mr. Williams for more than just his scholarship. We will remember his genuine interest and support for our work. We will remember his impromptu visits to the National Commission whenever he was in Castries, often simply to check in, to share an idea, or to offer us support. We will remember his distinct voice, his loud laughter, and most importantly, his friendship. Indeed, it was a great privilege to have had a personality like Mr. Williams supporting our work. The St. Lucia National Commission for UNESCO pays tribute to a distinguished historian, a dedicated educator, a cultural advocate, and a dear friend. His legacy will continue to inspire our work and our collective commitment to preserving and honoring St. Lucia's history and cultural heritage. We honor and are deeply grateful for his contribution and service, and extend sincere condolences to his family, friends, and all those whose lives he touched. Thank you.
Okay. Après, nous avons boots. Pas de dire rien. Moi, je suis pour vous. Moi, non, à tout plan là. All right. Candidate Daniel better known as Boots.
Bonsoir à tout le monde. Good night, Dee. Abby, nice seeing you after so many years. Greetings, sympathy from myself and my family, my wife, my children. Yeah, and Gregor. We have lost, but we have him. Gregor is now, I literally pursued Gregor in my professional life. After studying, coming back to St. Lucia, I went to teach in Vieux-Fort, and I was immediately following the Castro episode of his life as an educator. And what I found in Vieux-Fort, both of my cultural work and everything, was Gregor's legacy in education and in culture in the southern part of the island. And in a sense, he was like a mentor there. And then, of course, for our work at the Folk Research Center, yeah, it's a loss, and we have been losing quite a number of our giants in St. Lucia, and it's beginning to affect me quite a bit. I will admit that it has been affecting me over the last few years, and it just keeps going on and on and on, and there's just this hope that the St. Lucia we have shaped, people like Gregor, spirits like Gregor are there in it, and immortal, living on forever and ever with their ancestors. They don't leave, they just cross over, and they are there, and they are there with us in the land of the ancestors. Yes, you did surprise me, Mr. LaForce, but I decided what I'll do tonight is just read a poem from one of us, from the 70s, from Kendall Hippolyte. Again, he, just like Gregor, was the same route, an educator. He came to Vieux-Fort with me too, with the education down here, and then his work in culture, etc. One of Kendall's earlier poems that was so much part of our lives and our struggles, okay, from the 70s coming into now. That's all I will do right now for Gregor, so bear with me. It's from my favorite book by Kendall, Island in the Sun, Side 2. And for Gregor, I'll do Island in the Sun, Side 2, the title poem. This is my island in the sun where my people have toiled since time began. Though I may sail on many a sea, this island will always be home to me. Island in the sun, my father's hand stained with your soil has never owned you. So I am claiming you now, acre by acre, dream after dream. As morning breaks the heaven on high, I lift up my heavy load. That sun, that fucking sun. Our sweat would turn to smoke, dreams baked down to stone. That was the heavy load we lifted, and we lift it still. Island in the sun, discovered by Columbus, devoured by the British, recovered by the French, stripped and searched by Spanish not-so-noblemen, uncovered for the touch of merchant Dutchmen, passed across tables, hidden in the silken sleeves of statesmen. Island, stone that the builders refused, but we lift it still. I see women on bended knees, cutting cane for their family. I see men living and dying. It was cane. Only we could know how bitter it was, how deep its roots went. Those women knelt to feed a dragon. There was no family. Only successive crops of children, reaped, crushed, distilled, till the ratoons established themselves into dried old women. And year follows year, wet flows down to dry, cane fields lie fallow, some die Some flourish again, some spring up lives later as ghettos, estates where nothing thrives, only acres of zinc, little plots of misery, and endless waiting, here and there a patch of hope. Oh, island, island, the shackles and shacks, the treadmill of history turning, the dragon's teeth still gnashing in the factory, the white trash of the lives left to the survivors, the shreds, the people of straw, like the alcoholic who sets his glass between us and curses the whore, the abscess between her thighs, curses the sisters, their vices wrapped in hallelujahs, curses the madman carrying hell in a bag, curses the whole rotten, dirty, stinking, dirty John Crow life. Bagasse, debris, detritus, children of Sisyphus, children of Cain, children of rum and Coca-Cola, always asking, who will roll the stone away? Listen, I say, this stone is a foundation, is a new bedrock for the newborn. This stone can slay Goliath. It is his headstone. Flowers will grow from it. It is the dragon's final stumbling block, his millstone. It will crush him. This island, this stone, hides a shape the world has never seen. A man's shape, but more truly, prepare. We will soon break the stone. We will soon reveal him. For Gregor, who taught us to preserve our history.
Merci beaucoup, merci beaucoup. Je ne vais pas déparer pour faire un bon barrel là. Ok, nous attendons des tambours à présent. Ok. Donc, est-ce plus temps pour aller? Mais avant de partir, dans le là, nous voulons couiller, il y a un délit. Mais comment? On a parlé de monsieur Paul Bousquet. Pour lui dire bon.
Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. When I got the call from the most reliable source indicating that Gregor had died, I immediately contacted members of the National Reparations Committee, of which I'm chair, and said we needed to issue a statement. A statement had already been issued by the St. Lucia National Trust, and I did a draft, submitted it in our chat room so that we could have exchanges and contributions. Jim Purlett, Monsignor Anthony, Amber Charles, Nkrumah Lucien, Dr. June Suma, and other members of the association who are all here this evening, made their contributions and comments, and we came out with the following statement, which was issued in the Voice. I can promise you that it's brief. I don't normally write briefly, but it is brief, and the heading was, Gregor Williams gave much and left more. And in part it says, a national treasure and a mentor to many, Gregor spent a life of service to history, learning and teaching, sharing with St. Lucia and the world much that was little known about the tiny island that changed hands over a dozen times at treaty tables after the many battles and wars that still didn't break the islanders' spirit of survival and resilience. A teacher of men and women who would become prime ministers and lawyers, business persons and academics, among a multiplicity of disciplines, Gregor gathered and shared knowledge with all everywhere through his decades as a teacher and principal, as well as his many research writings and lectures delivered. Ever simple, the bearded one never shied away from correcting the many wrong or bent narratives that gravely stunted the growth of appreciation of a history untold that he continuously helped unfold. It was Gregor who would have told the true tales of many places and people historically taken for granted by those who wrote their history, thus paving the way for future researchers and teachers to continue his long and lasting legacy of enlightenment. His wife Deirdre, a forever pillar of their fundamental love for reading and research, writing and teaching, was an equal contributor to their lifelong success as an inseparable pair coupled by destiny to learn, teach, and share the stories of the hunters from the perspective of the hunted. Their fusion survived all early odds through persistent pursuit of the mutual lifelong mission of teaching and enlightening at schools and in communities. The National Reparations Committee joins the rest of St. Lucia in paying honor and tribute to Gregor Williams on his passage to the great beyond, and offer our deepest sympathies to his wife and family in this period of missing and mourning. Gregor gave much to this nation in his long life, but he also left us much more by way of his long-lasting legacy. May his soul rest in everlasting peace. That was the statement issued by the National Reparations Committee. Soon thereafter, I had to leave to represent the committee at a reparations conference in Venezuela. And part of the St. Lucia delegation included Dr. June Suma, representing the Permanent Forum, United Nations Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. And that was where we were able to share with delegates from Latin America and the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, worldwide. Works done by Gregor and Dirty to share with the world the contribution of Jean-Baptiste Bidot to the independence of Venezuela. And there is a book many or most of us here will not know of and will not have seen, but efforts will be made to get it here. It's called Leaders of ALBA, and it was published by the ALBA group, which comprises Latin American and Caribbean nations who are committed to a Bolivarian alliance for the Caribbean. It was called a Bolivarian alternative, but when 8 CARICOM member states joined, it became an alliance, and that is where it became something. And that book looks at the contributions of earlier heroes before the 19th century. And in that book called Leaders of ALBA, there is a chapter on Bidot, written by Gregor and Deirdre Williams. And it is in that chapter that our colleagues in Venezuela, the rest of the Caribbean, around the world, and those of us from St. Lucia as well, were able to learn from Gregor and Deirdre's research and sharing that Jean-Baptiste Bidot didn't just start off building ships here and going to Venezuela. In fact, that was the last of his very bright and extensive legacy. Because Jean-Baptiste Bidot from Deriso in Miku built ships, but he had been influenced by the 1795 revolution in St. Lucia at Rabat, which led to St. Lucia becoming free from slavery from 1795 to 1796, 8 years or 9 years before the Declaration of Independence in Haiti. Through Gregor and Deirdre, we know that Haiti and St. Lucia started their fights against slavery for freedom in 1791, but St. Lucia triumphed in 1795, only to be overthrown when the Grand Old Duke of York of those days came here with 10,000 men, marched them up to the top of the hill, and marched them down again. And after Sucre and St. Lucia was overthrown, Bidot built boats to take Caribbean freedom fighters to go and assist in Haiti. He contributed, Jean-Baptiste Bidot contributed to the liberation of Haiti. And when Haiti was over in 1804, he left and went to Guadeloupe. Again, we learn from Gregor and Deirdre. Went to Guadeloupe made his contribution there, and after Guadeloupe was attracted to Venezuela. And it was in Venezuela that Bido became the trusted captain of the revolutionary forces. Simon Bolivar would only travel on those ships captained and built by Bido. Bido saved Bolivar's life in a battle on a beach. And after the independence of Venezuela in 1811, Jean-Baptiste Bido from Deriso in Mico became the governor of eastern Venezuela, all of eastern Venezuela. His name today is written in books. Schools are named after him, bridges, roads, everything in eastern Venezuela. But again, I go through that to point out that had it not been for the meticulous research done by Gregor and Deirdre, not only would we as fellow St. Lucians not have known, but the world would not have known. And I took that time to share those notes to underline what we have heard tonight, repeatedly said, that when Gregor left, we lost a national treasure. But like we said in the National Reparations Committee's statement, he gave much and left much more. Personally, my last encounter with Gregor was at a coup de main to clean up the Folk Research Center after it was burnt. And it was a Saturday, and my Saturdays are usually spent by Big Mama by the bay, gathering my notes for my stories from what I hear from fishermen and people coming to buy fish, and sacrifice that to go to the Folk Research Center to a coup de main. And halfway through the coup de main, I called Gregor aside and I said, but Gregor, you may need to give the executive director and the organizers at the Folk Research Center a lecture on the relationship between rum and coup de main. Because those of us who grew up knowing what a coup de main was, is that the rum was the driving force. You're not paying, you're not getting paid, the rum was the driving force. And unfortunately, there was no rum at the FRC's coup de main. So I called Gregor and I said, Gregor, how are we going to deal with that? And he says, I don't know, but if I were you, I would go and see if Big Mama is still open. Which I did, but unfortunately, I didn't return. So folks, with these many words, I want to once again express the appreciation of the National Reparations Committee on behalf of all of our members here, our deep appreciation for the everlasting contribution that Gregor has made to us better understanding our history, not from the standpoint of the hunter, but as written in its truth by the hunted. Thank you.
Thank you all, thank you all. What a good thing that Bido didn't live in this day and age, because he might have been obliterated by Trump. Under the guise that he's carrying drugs, unfortunately. Okay, we have a tribute by the Cuban Humanistic Society. Anybody from that society? Oh, yes, very well.
Good evening, everyone. Condolences to the family of our dear Gregor Williams. And I speak today. The St. Lucia Cuba Friendship Association and the Embassy of Cuba are deeply saddened by the passing of our dear and beloved former executive member, the late Dr. Gregor Williams, who passed away on December 15, 2025. Dr. Williams was an executive member of the Humanistic Solidarity Association, now renamed the St. Lucia Cuba Friendship Association, from 2007. In addition to being an executive member, Dr. Gregor served as chairman of the Scholarship Committee during 2007 and 2017, during which times he served 5 scholarships were awarded to St. Lucians to study in Cuba. The first scholarship awarded was to Selva Wilton of Monrepo Micoud to study physical education in 2007, followed by Dr. Melissa Francois of Lafargue-Soisel, Dr. Joyan Chico of Labrie, Dr. Joel Flood of Monchi in Grosile, and Dr. Mandisa Moncheri of Deriso Micoud. Dr. Gregor made a significant contribution to the association in its founding years, offering invaluable guidance and support, including his wife, Deirdre, who willingly took him back and forth to every meeting and assisted as the need arose. We remember Dr. Gregor's warm and cheerful spirit and his leadership as chairman of the Scholarship Committee, until, unfortunately, the 1 Cuban scholarship per year given to the association was discontinued. Notwithstanding Dr. Gregor ceased to be an active member of the executive, he and his wife Deirdre continued to participate in almost every one of our meetings and activities until he was no longer able to do so. His and their tireless dedication to service, unwavering commitment and contribution as educators, historians, and long-standing members of the St. Lucia Cuba Friendship Association has left an unforgettable mark on the lives of many and will always be cherished with gratitude. On a personal note, Dr. Gregor was always a pleasure to chat with, and I had the honor to do so on many occasions. And I recall the history he shared with me that whilst he was a lecturer, students took him for Fidel Castro because of his long beard. And this he shared, and he would have this infectious laugh every time he told the story. And I'm sure that his wife could relate to this story because he took pleasure in repeating and relating that chapter of his life. We extend our deepest condolences to his wife, Deirdre, his children, family, and friends, and we wish them courage and strength at this challenging time of bereavement. And may the family also find comfort in the cherished memories that they shared with Dr. Gregor and the knowledge that his earthly journey of life has touched so many of us. Dr. Gregor is gone, but his lessons and memories will continue to live in our hearts forever. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Long live the life and memory of Dr. Gregor. Long live the legacy of Dr. Gregor Williams. I thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone wants to say a tribute? Yes, you in the back? Yeah, come forward. Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wilson Jean-Baptiste. I was the last set of students to have attended Beaufort-Sec from Form 1 to Form 5, while Dr. Williams was principal. In other words, I had the privilege to have experienced student life on the Dr. Williams. One of the most fascinating things about, we used to call him Mr. Williams, was that he wanted to transform us, and he successfully did that, from students to good people. And how was he able to do that? He used various factors like student life, cadets, soccer player, cricket player, table tennis, annual sports event, and most importantly, radicalization. So he wanted to once we left the Beaufort-Sec, he wanted us to leave as better people. For instance, I stand here as one who played soccer for St. Lucia. But most importantly, after we left, he had injected in us a sense of curiosity. We never felt that learning had ended. We never felt that we would have retired. For instance, I went on to study even after leaving Senior Sec. And he instilled in us a discipline whereby we had to have certain values that we stood for and certain values that we fought for. There were repercussions, and I stand here as someone who suffered the repercussions of the radicalization of Dr. Williams. But we had a better society, we had a better community. And it is sad that Dr. Williams was stolen from Beaufort, because that's where he impacted most, and the rest is history. Dr. Williams during Beaufort, Dr. Williams after Beaufort. So we could see the differences. He also ensured that we participated in the community, not simply as students, not as being better than anyone, but with a kind of humility that integrated the Beaufort community into the Beaufort Senior Secondary School. And he did that through the annual sports event, which was held on a Sunday, where everybody met. We performed. I was one of the top athletes. Sorry about that. Yeah. But we had a special relationship. He called me Sheriff. He never called me by my name. Within the 5 years I spent at Senior Sec while he was principal, I was the most troublesome. I got the most licks. But he was always looking for me, either because he had not seen me in his office for a week or so, or he would stand at assembly and say, shoot first and ask questions after. And that was a direct message to me. He also challenged us to conquer our fears, because once he took us to the Black Bay area, there was a small area to walk through. Below was the cliff, and there was the sea coming in, and I'm asking myself, why is he doing that to us? If any one of us slipped, we would not have survived. But he was challenging us to conquer fear and be able to walk back from one end to the next. Beaufort will definitely and has definitely missed Dr. Williams. Students have missed him. And one of the areas that we can never forget was the day when Dee first brought Abigail to the school. All classes stopped. And we rushed to the vehicle to look at that little girl, head full of dark hair, and it was like a celebration for all of us. But Dr. Williams would not leave me alone. My only daughter is also named Abigail, So for the rest of my life, I will always remember him. And for you who gave him the support in the North, we thank you. And we thank you because you stole a gem from us, And I do not think Dr. Williams would have ever wanted to leave Beaufort. But he was always challenging ministries of education, always challenging prime ministers, etc. And we discovered his radicalization on Monday mornings. There was a group of us who were very close to him, and he was inculcating the values of radicalization in us. Every Monday morning, we would head to the auditorium, and there was a blackboard, and at the back of the blackboard, you would never realize what was being written there. Communism, capitalism, socialism. And we would stand and say, you see what those guys write in there? He would erase it, and we'd go on. But we thank him for his humility. He raised us as his children. He wanted us to be successful. And thank you for accompanying him on this long and challenging journey. We thank you, and rest in peace, Dr. Williams. Thank you very much.
There is no doubt that he had a profound impact on this gentleman. To the extent that he named him his daughter after. Yeah, Abigail. Pretty good indeed. Anybody else? One more? Somebody else? If you're from Beaufort, no problem, you know. Anybody? Okay, all right, come forward. Oh, Dr. June Suma.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I could not leave without saying a few words, because I sat here and I listened to all of the institutional contributions that Gregor made. But I sat there and I thought to myself, but he also impacted me at the level of the individual. And I met him when I was a history student at the A-level college, and his beard was not yet white. And I would go on to become a historian. I'm a historian, essentially. But what impacted me with regard to him was the fact that I think that at heart he was a feminist. He believed in equality, and he believed it, you could see in the treatment of his wife, and you could see it in the treatment and the way he spoke about his daughters. And so as a young female historian, I think he took a special interest in me and made sure that there were certain things that I understood. And that would grow when I went to St. Lucia Teachers College. And we started to imagine a museum for St. Lucia. And on a Saturday, as a young student, I would go to the Mon, where a group of Peace Corps volunteers and myself would be working, trying to establish a museum at the Mon. When that was not successful, then we went to Pigeon Island, Pigeon Point, to try to do that. So see me, my mother never knew that. I would be at the back of a motorcycle behind a Peace Corps, riding all the way up to Pigeon Island for us to go and paint, and we did birds and a number of different things. And I think that was one of his biggest disappointments, that St. Lucia does not have a museum. And I'm sorry the minister left before I had a chance to say that. But I think that we need a museum to honor Mr. Williams. And there we can put in all of the things that really made him the complete person that he was. When they were trying to do honors for people in St. Lucia a couple of years ago, I remember I had done a lecture called Stiff Back Women on one of the independence occasions. And I got a lot of the information from that, from Mrs. Williams and Mr. Williams. And that is why Petronile was honored. And there's a statue of Petronile. It is because of Mr. Williams. So I want to say hail to Mr. Williams for being a feminist. and for making me more interested in women's history and trying to make our history a complete history, not simply about places, but about very important people. So my condolences to the family, and I know that you all are missing Mr. Williams, but you can see from these tributes that he meant a lot to all of us, and we will miss him, but we know that he will live in all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sumar. At this time, we'll have Mr. Rennie, who will come and do a rendition. Is he ready? Oh, it's right there.
Good evening, everyone. So I absolutely sorry for standing in front of the... I absolutely hate to sing with my phone, but you'll forgive me today because I am here to do a special tribute for Doc. He said he liked Italian music, opera music. And so this song I had to pull out of retirement specifically for him. So forgive me again for having my phone. This song is entitled Time to Say Goodbye.
Quando sogno il sole, l'orizzonte mancano le parole. Se lo so che non c'è luce in una stanza quando manca il sole. Se non c'è sei tu con me, su le finestre. Mostrai tutto il mio cuore che hai acceso, chiudi dentro me la luce che hai incontrato per strada. Con te partirò. Non ho mai veduto e vissuto con te, adesso sì li vivrò con te, partirò. Su navi per mari che io lo so, oh no, no esistono più. Con te io li vivrò, quando sei lontana sono l'orizzonte, manca le parole. Io solo se tu sei con me, tu mia luna, tu sei chi con me. Mio sole, tu sei chi con me, con me, con me, con me. Con te partirò, paesi che non ho mai veduto e vissuto con te, adesso sì li vivrò con te, partirò. Su navi per mari che io lo so, no, esistono più, con te io li rivivrò, con te partirò. Sono navi per mare che io lo so, no, esistono più, con te io li rivivrò, con te
For a while I thought that was Mario Lanza. Very good indeed. Any more tributes? Anybody else who would want to? Okay, all right, very well. Oh, a granddaughter, very good indeed. Yeah.
I'm not great with words, so I'm going to let music say what I want to say. Tengo marcado en el pecho todos los días que el tiempo no me dejó estar aquí. Tengo una fe que madura, que va conmigo y me cura desde que te conocí. Tengo una huella perdida entre tu sombra y la mía que no me deja mentir. Tengo una moneda en la fuente, tú mi deseo pendiente, mis ganas de revivir. Tengo una mañana constante y una acuarela esperando verte pintado de azul. Tengo tu amor y tu suerte y un caminito empinado. Tengo el mar del otro lado, tú eres mi norte y mi sur. Hoy voy a verte de nuevo, voy a moverme en tu ropa, susurrarme en tu silencio cuando me veas llegar. Hoy voy a verte de nuevo, voy a alegrar tu tristeza. Vamos a hacer una fiesta para que este amor crezca más. Tengo una frase colgada entre mi boca y mi almohada que me desnuda ante ti. Tengo una playa y un pueblo que me acompañan de noche cuando no estás junto a mí. Tengo una mañana constante y una acuarela esperando verte pintado de azul. Tengo tu amor y tu suerte y un caminito empinado. Tengo el mar del otro lado, tú eres mi norte y mi sur. Hoy voy a verte de nuevo, voy a moverme en tu ropa, susurrarme en tu silencio cuando me veas llegar. Hoy voy a verte de nuevo, voy a alegrar tu tristeza. Vamos a hacer una fiesta para que este amor crezca más. Hoy voy a verte de nuevo, voy a alegrarme en tu ropa, susurrarme en tu silencio hasta que me veas llegar. Hoy voy a verte de nuevo, voy a alegrar tu tristeza. Vamos a hacer una fiesta para que este amor crezca más. Para que este amor crezca más.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Oh, very good indeed, very good. Okay, we having 2 more tributes. 2 more. Okay, there's a gentleman coming up.
My deepest condolences. I think you deserve a dance. And one of my most treasured memories was after a concert, he was expressing his joy by showing his dance movements and telling me what I should do in dance. He's especially a treasure to Sadia and I. Leslie said quite a bit of it. And Sadia and I have both been trying to find a ballet that he wrote for her that we should do. And we have that in mind to do. Hopefully we can honor him with that. I'm just reading a little bit of a correspondence he sent to show how important he was to me in my career in the arts. So, dear Richard, you are missing out on the good times. On Saturday, Sadia, her brother, and I joined the Trust Southern membership in a field trip to Honeymoon Beach. You would have enjoyed the trip and the tour. Sunday was a great day too at Kazamba. I had made a huge pan of delicious bouillon. There was hardly a lick remaining for the dogs. You were definitely missing. Larry and Winston, Deirdre, Robin's girlfriend, and I were doing some pretty professional excavating. We were exchanging because I made contact with him because I was in a play in Guadeloupe about La Mulâtre Solitude. Jean-Baptiste Bidot came in, and I was playing a character that I'd never heard of, that had one line. I was just so excited to say, coupable. Speaking to him, finding him on the Mon through my cousin Leslie and so forth, he gave me so much information, I felt I could write another play. And so, such was the great nature of the man. I discovered the importance of heritage, history, and culture that gave purpose to being on stage. And so every time I'm on stage, I need to have something that I'm saying. I need to represent my country, and I need to represent who I am. And so I'm very thankful to you, Lady D, for every time I was at Sir Arthur, at the library, that, okay, I did not have enough brain space for all the information you were giving, and I felt just the same way about him. Thank you for your continued work, your continued effort, the legacy that will go on beyond time. And thank you to his family.
Okay, one final tribute. Okay, all right.
My tribute will be brief. I found it hard just to remain there and say nothing. I worked with Gregor for many years. I appreciated his comradeship. I'm a retired teacher, as some of you know, from both taught in Jamaica, in the British Virgin Islands, and in beloved St. Lucia here. And when CXC introduced for the first time what is called the SBA, the history was chosen as one of the subjects. And a lot of teachers all over the region were frustrated. They found, oh, this thing too hard, it's too complicated. But it gave me a renewed sense of our own Caribbean history. And whenever we did projects on the plantation system, I would invite Gregor to go with me and the boys. I taught at St. Mary's College in those days. And I came to appreciate places like the Marquis Estate. Mr. Atkinson was still alive. And Brother Cyril, a geography master, would plot out the geographic area of the plantation. I, the history teacher, and you know what the boys like best? The coconuts from the trees that Mr. Atkinson would give. Gregor went with me too to the Fondo estate in the Monrepo area, where a water wheel existed still. And again, we did research, we made reports. And in Vieux-Fort, I don't know if that one still exists, but just before you get to where the brewery, over on the opposite side, again, we did work there. He was indeed a companion, and later on, somewhere about 6 years ago, I had to go to Martinique for treatment for prostate cancer. And my second daughter said to me, she wrote me and said, you must get Gregor to go with you, Gregor, and let him stay with you, and you travel together and discuss Caribbean history. And it was a fantastic time. But I thought I knew him, but tonight I came to recognize the many dimensions of the man and his family. And, you truly must be proud of him. He's in the great beyond, he's in a better place, and he has made his mark for his own people. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So for those of you who don't know Dr. Gregor Williams' family, I would now like to have them come up and Dee would introduce them.
I promised Mommy I would only let her come up once. So it's the four of us, for those that don't know. There's Hewitt, the eldest, myself, Abigail. I'm not Heather, that's Heather. A lot of you have confused that this evening, but no, Heather and Abigail. And Robin, the youngest. And I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to 2 stories and 2 asides in Zilla's honor. One of Heather's suitors called him Godzilla because he was scared of him, and then he became Zilla, so sometimes we might say Zilla. And we were just thinking about what it would be like for him to be here, and how he would be so touched. So we want to say thank you. The 4 of us would really like to say thank you to you all. He promised us when we would talk about eulogies, he said, you just make sure that whoever's going to talk, you say something good. And don't let the people say anything bad about me. So the first story is a more serious story, which is how it began. Because I believe it was Leslie that said, well, how did he leave this, this direction in his life of engineering and, excellent teacher in St. Mary's and the sciences and math to come into this stream. And he tells a story of he's in St. Francis Xavier, and he goes into the card catalog. There were card catalogs back then, no? And he's looking forward and he says, I want to find out more about St. Lucia. What can I find about St. Lucia? So he goes through and he looks and he goes through and he looks and he says, well, I can find it over here with the British and I can find it over here in the French, but why is there nothing for St. Lucia alone? And that was his beginning. That is when he decided, and he started in the direction that has taken him these 60 years of dedicating himself deeply to St. Lucia. That's the first story. The second story is, as you can imagine, for all of us and our children, and Mikey, can you raise your hand? Jesse, raise your hand. Gabby, those are 3 of ours. There's Tassia, Clark, and Taryn, who aren't here from Hewitt, and there's the twins, Ren and Rory. Yes, Robin had twins. Those were the ones in the picture who were really quite fond of their grandfather. But for us, the children growing up with Gregor, it was, well, you can imagine the experience. Every weekend was an adventure somewhere. We were saying how big St. Lucia seemed when we were little, because every weekend we would go to some place new. It could be Ansivoin, it could be Peter Floyd, it could be to move the feet for Palud in Miku, Vieux-Fort, and it was always this sense of discovery, this curiosity, this interest. Heather was talking about how she would go to the petroglyphs, with Daddy, and she'd run her hands over, and he'd say, yes, yes. I was going to say pigs, but no. Yes, puss. He used to call it pigs. Yes, puss. You need to feel it. You need to feel it to understand it. No. Hewitt taking his girls up to Pigeon Island, and him coming down and saying their eyes were just big with wonder. No, it was as if they had gone to someplace new. And well, of course, Robin said, like, Daddy just knew everything about everything. Like, there was no plant, there was no animal, like nothing. You'd ask us, he would have a story. And this was, so for us, because really, Gregor didn't actually belong to us. He would come in, he would be an amazing father, but he belonged to St. Lucia, and it was important for him to belong to St. Lucia. I was going to tell you a story about Vieux Sec, but I'll save it for the eulogy, and I want to thank Sheriff. If you can believe it, Sheriff used to carry me around a lot, because when Gregor was busy, I believe he would give me to you, Sheriff, and you would hold on to me. Yes, that's right, yes. I also had a few other Vieux Sec students who said, Abigail, he used to come in, we didn't understand why he had such a long belt. And was it, yeah, you remember? Yeah, because he used to tie you up with it. And I'm like, all right. Yeah, so it seems like he used to tie me up with the belt when he was going around, and you fought to not lose me. But I want to thank you, Sheriff. I hear you were one of the ones that would free me. It's probably why you got into trouble, but anyway, for the two asides, to not make this evening too long, the two asides. The first one is I want to assure everybody that he is going to rest in peace in his shirt jack with his pen. We're even considering if we're going to put a stain on the bottom, because he always used to he would lose the cap. So so we've been thinking about it. So his favorite shirt jack, his pen, what am I forgetting? His sandals, the favorite ones, that allowed his toe to come out. Then I'm forgetting one thing. Oh, the hat, of course, that hat that he loves so much, and the glasses. So he is going to be going as we remember him. He would tell all of you to, that the job is not done, that you have to keep doing the job, that he would tell us always, take no prisoners. So I'm going to tell you on his behalf, that the job is not done, and take no prisoners as you do it. The last aside I'm going to say is it's very interesting how many people have come up to tell me about Daddy's books that you still have. A number of you have come to say, I have kept them in pristine condition. I still have them, but I will return them to your mother. I want to tell you two things. The first one is if you are reading it and you're enjoying it, he would be happy that you keep it. And the second thing is that if you do not want to keep it, I have told my mother to make a lot of space in the shelves to get it back, because that is the generosity of my father that I hope will continue through the work that all of the organizations here have done, and we'd like to thank you. And through each one of us as St. Lucians, really to live up to that feeling of belonging, of, St. Lucia is important, St. Lucia is special. So, which was his main message, and let's just take that forward with us. No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you, thank you, thank
you. Thank you. Okay, so now we're having some music from Mabai Lakai, and the drummers will come in too. Well, but before the drummers come in, there's a song by Robert Rennie.
Moi assez hot connaître chanson ça là. Si moi tout. Si moi tout ça fait moi la peine. Mais oui, ça vrai, let me hear you. Si moi tout ça fait moi la peine. Si moi tout ça fait moi la peine,
mais oui, ça, oui. Ça m'a maïa chalma, ça pas qu'à faire l'amour pour moi. Si moi doux, ça fait moi la peine, mais oui, ça, oui. Si moi doux, ça fait moi la peine, mais oui, ça, oui. Si moi doux, ça fait moi la peine, mais oui, ça, oui. Ça m'a maïa chalma, ça pas qu'à faire l'amour pour moi. Écoutez-moi, moi, je vais nous à Guanchime. Moi, je vais nous déchirer. Moi, prends maintenant la caille. Bah, ou prêt, bah, ou manger. Moi, maintenant, au magasin. Bah, ou tout ça, ou brisé. Ou les maca travail. Ou petit pâté, un coup aller. Si moi, 12 avec moi la peine, oui. Oh, si moi, 12 avec moi la peine. Ah, si moi, 12 avec moi la peine. Oh, Zama Maya Chalma, Zapa Café. Moi, je vais nous en chimé. Moi, je vais nous tout déchirer. Moi, prends maintenant la caille. Bah, ou boire, bah, ou manger. Moi, maintenant, en magasin. Bah, tout ça, ou briser. Oui, les mains travail. Au point des bâtiments, ouais, aller. Si moi, doux. Mais oui. Oh, si moi doux, mais oui, ça, oui, si moi, oui, ça, oui, ça, maman. But, let's see if you know that one. But, ça c'est bagaille nous tout aimer. But, ça c'est bagaille nous tout aimer. Mamadou, calçon, Mamadou, step in, Mamadou, moi à sous beach. Ça c'est bagaille nous tout aimer. But, ça c'est bagaille nous tout aimer. Ça c'est bagaille nous tout aimer. Maman il a dit ouais. Dis ouais encore. Dis ouais toujours. Dis ouais bien bah moi. Les maintenant parler. Dis au moins pas mêler. Mamele bio. What look about mama. What look about papa. Mama il a dit ouais. Mama il a dit ouais. Mama il a dit ouais. Mama il a dit. Magopin na baba kawile. Kilidu kilisi mamele. Ah, anchebe a tête pour nous. Anchebe a pour nous. Anchebe a shampoo nous. Alakadu. Magotin na baba kawile. Kilidu kilisi mamele. Anchebe a tête pour nous. Anchebe a pour nous. Anchebe a bois pour nous. Alakadu. C'est moi doux, ça fait moi la peine. Mais oui, we finish it or we start. Si moi doux, ça fait moi la peine. Oh, si moi doux, ça fait moi la peine. Mais oui, oh, zot maman jolma, zot ma café, l'amour pour
Okay, so we've come to the little session, come to the end of the little session, but before we leave, like Greg would do, we have in the back there. Okay, it might not be hard liquor, but we have something across there. Someone will be escorting the family across. You want to see something? Okay.
Just want to invite everybody to the funeral for Gregor. It will be at the cathedral, the Minor Basilica, on Thursday at 2:30. It will be an ecumenical service of Elder Robert Lee and myself will officiate. So you're invited to join us, Minor Basilica, on Thursday, and join us for refreshments in the morning.
May I say again, thank you. The only thing that would have made this evening better would have been if Gregor had been sitting beside me and we could have got up and danced to Charlie's music. Thank you very much.